Greetings from Tokyo. This is Daisuke, and I hope all of you are having a lovely, lovely day today. Continuing with my discussion of the films in the Criterion collection, please now let me, if I may, discuss with you the film from the director Samuel Fuller. This is Spine number 19. Shock Corridor. (1963) Shock Corridor, written, produced, and directed by Mr. Samuel Fuller. Now, this is the Blu-ray from Criterion, and this is very good because it has as special features the great interview with the always great, the legend Constance Towers, and it also has the documentary from the late 90s, 1996, called The Typewriter, the Rifle, and the Movie Camera, from Adam Simon. And this is a documentary on Samuel Fuller and about his life and about his overall filmography and career. It features Tim Robbins and Martin Scorsese and Quentin Tarantino as well. There's a scene where Quentin Tarantino and Tim Robbins, I think, are going through Samuel Fuller's garage, and they find the steel helmet from the film, The Steel Helmet. And so Quentin Tarantino immediately grabs it and touches it with his hands, which I thought was at once very bold and also, in a way, and I mean this in a complimentary way, I suppose, slightly offensive, but in any event, it's a very fascinating documentary, and Samuel Fuller is also featured quite prominently in that documentary. So you hear him speak, and you hear his words, and you hear the way he is so seemingly brash and in your face, but in fact his words, I think, are so carefully chosen. He is such a well-spoken man. He is so witty and intelligent, and he's so clever with his words as a person, and you get interesting background into his character and where he came from as a journalist, as a newspaperman, and also his experiences with the war, and then also his experiences as a filmmaker and the admiration he later gained from other filmmakers such as Tarantino, who I should say shows a real loving respect and adoration for Fuller here. And so I find Tarantino's enthusiasm to be very genuine and quite charming. And also there is some great words by Scorsese and Jim Jarmusch, also wonderful interviews he gives about his respect and admiration for Samuel Fuller. And there is a theatrical trailer, and you also have the great cover art, and also continuing in the back, excuse me for the glare, and then also the booklet, which is right here. Again, continuing on with this wonderful cover art. So, and the essays. So what I'd like to do, as always, is I'd like to discuss this film in detail. And as a result, I will be talking about specific details of this film. Spoilers abound, fortunately or unfortunately, which means that if you have not seen the film yet, I strongly urge you to stop this video and take a look at this incredibly exciting, surprising, and in many ways quite an assault on what I otherwise would consider to be, well, I feel like I'm assaulted when I watch this film, because it really tries to challenge my general outlook and conventions about cinema and about the themes that it's exploring, and also about storytelling techniques. So this is an undoubted absolutely remarkable viewing experience. And so it would be a tragedy, I think, if my video were to spoil this film, which is filled with so many surprises. So this is me saying that I want you to stop this video if you haven't seen this film yet and watch this film as soon as you can. It's 101 minutes according to the back of this Blu-ray box. So it goes by very quickly, and it is a fun ride with segments that I think are easily digestible, and it forms a whole that is stunning. So please watch this film if you haven't already, and then come back anytime you have finished watching, and I'll be happy to discuss this film, this great film with you. Shock Corridor. So this film is about a journalist named Johnny Barrett who wants fame, he wants the Pulitzer, and he wants to do that he wants to gain those by solving a murder. And so he has to solve this murder, and in order to do that, he has to masquerade and pretend that he is quote-unquote insane, or that he has a certain mental condition which therefore has him committed to this institution. And he is therefore in the institution in order to discover who killed Sloane. And as part of his investigation, while he's pretending to be insane, he tries to question 3 witnesses who might have witnessed this killing of Sloane. And therefore, by interrogating these witnesses, it is Johnny's hope that he will solve the mystery of who killed Sloane. So that's the general premise. What's interesting about this film as a film that is essentially premised on this idea of solving a murder is that really the murder is it's the, how would Hitchcock have put it? It's the MacGuffin. It's the thing that I would say the main characters are interested in, but really the audience, myself included, I don't think we're meant to be interested so much in that plot thread. And the reason I say that is because we never find out Sloane. We don't know who he is. We don't know the situation of the murder. We are not privy to those particular details. We come into the film well after the incident has occurred, and so we get the story after the fact, so to speak. So we just get it from Johnny's perspective and how they, he and Swanee are planning to essentially infiltrate this institution. So the point of the film isn't the cover story necessarily of the search or the hunt for the murder. That's the MacGuffin. But the real point of the film is to get into this hospital and to get into this ward and to immerse yourself in this incredibly dazzling world that is everywhere you go, you find something that is quite spooky and mystifying. And also you are confronted by characters who will just knock you out of your seat. Just so many memorable characters. And the whole ambiance and the ruckus that is caused by the chaos and the B-movie quality, the Pulp Fiction-like quality of the delivery of the dialogue and the way it's all, I used this word in a previous video, but schlocky. And it's very pulpy and it's very raw, and thus it becomes very fresh. So all this stuff comes together to form this movie about essentially Johnny's adventures through this weird wonderland, so to speak. And you get all these situations that he goes in, and gradually he begins to lose his grip on reality. And I love this too because we have the story of him trying to, or dealing with various inmates, but also dealing with the three witnesses. So you have the, Stewart, who is the first one, who thinks he is a Confederate, and he is quote-unquote patriotic, and he has a backstory about being he has a backstory about being with the commies, so to speak. And then the second story, or the second witness, is Trent, who is the African American person who seems to think that he is a white supremacist and also a member of the KKK. And an absolutely dynamite section of the film, if I do say so myself. It's just stunning. And then we have Dr. Bowden, a seemingly brilliant physicist, or he's a seemingly brilliant nuclear physicist who has the mental capacity of a child. And so we have these figures who each figure into a certain aspect of American society and American culture of that era, 1960s. And we have aspects of them dealing with the nuclear age and the Cold War. So that's Dr. Bowden. And then we have aspects of the rise of the American South, and also the tidal wave of communism, and that's Stewart. And then we have race relations and the violence that erupts in the tensions that arise with respect to race relations, and the context or the historical context in which that is based. So that's Trent. So all of these strong American cultural themes, historical themes in contemporary society or latter half of the 20th century, are woven in to this film in a way that is so, I think, easy to digest from the point of view of a film watcher like myself. And I think that is aces. Fantastic, because it makes the film at once so, as I said before, easily digestible and so easy to watch because it's very easy to follow. But at the same time, it gives you so much to think about and so much food for thought that you are left stunned. I mean, the most famous sequence out of this has to be Trent. And his depiction here, when he is giving his white supremacist speech in the hallway and the people are congregating around him, and he sees an African-American young man walk down the hall, I was going to say street, and going down the hall, and he just says, let's go get him. It just becomes a huge mob, and it's frenzied, and it's berserk and crazy, and it occurs almost in an instant. It's amazing. And what's frightening about that scene, and what's so profound about that scene too, is that obviously Trent is an African American, Harry Rhodes, who is, I think, I recognize him from the film Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. But he gives here such a charged performance, which is, I think, must have been really difficult, because you just close your eyes and you listen to his words, and you can hear the venom and the vitriol that exists, and you can imagine in your head the kind of person who is probably speaking these words. And then you open your eyes and you're confronted with the visual image, and you're confronted with who exactly is speaking, and it's like your mind is about to explode with all this information and all this food for thought that Samuel Fuller is just confronting you with. He is challenging you here to the max. And what's frightening about that is when Trent dons the mask, the Ku Klux Klan mask, and it's got those holes in the eyes, right? And you could tell that his humanity has been drained. It is frightening, absolutely frightening. And there are moments during the mob scene when his mask is about to fall off. You notice that? It's almost as though his own humanity is trying to escape out of him, but he is preventing it from doing so because of the hate that he has cloaked himself with. Stunning, truly stunning. And I find that to be one of the great sequences in the Criterion Collection catalog. It's just filled so much. With profound statements on race relations and racism, and the idea that also racism is essentially a concept that could be considered innate, but also could be considered as being something that is adopted, that is something that is not innate, but rather something that is adopted over time by virtue of one's environment or one's surroundings, or from the fact that one is quote-unquote insane or crazy. And those are really profound statements to make. And you can tell the underlying effect that those statements can have in terms of one's view on racism. So you can tell that there is a real, anti-racist statement that's being made by Fuller. Excuse my very overgeneralized comment on that, but I hope you know what I'm talking about, because he has taken this idea this idea of how easy it is to be racist, if you know what I mean. And it doesn't have to come from something that is innately hateful in one's heart, but it can come from something that is probably easy to access in terms of one's viewpoint. And I think that kind of statement by Fuller is on the one hand very refreshing, but on the other hand, oh so frightening. And it paints a real frightening world that we live in. And thank goodness for filmmakers like Fuller who present this kind of challenging remark in a way that is creative and inventive and oh so clever. Yes, and I should say also that the dialogue here is quite snappy, and it's so witty and sharp, and there is a lovely, as I said before, a lovely B-movie quality about the proceedings here, and there's a nice cardboard quality to the sets, and so it doesn't feel like a film that is set in true realism. It's very staged, and it's very over the top sometimes. It can be quite melodramatic. The actor Peter Breck, who plays Johnny, the main character, he gives a very over-the-top performance. Perhaps, well, I was going to criticize it, but actually, I think it tonally speaking, I think it's just right for this film, because there needs to be this elevated sense of drama, because we are talking about very lofty themes, and I think that without this sort of corniness, so to speak, I think the film would have been hampered down by its weightiness. But I think this nice tonal balance between the heavy themes that it deals with on its base and the corniness or the schlocky pulp fiction quality of the plot and narrative and the performances, I think, give it a real nice balance. And it's one of those things where, again, the B-movie quality is very deceptive, and you go into this film thinking, oh, I'm going to watch this B-movie that's not going to be very consequential, but bam, you go in there and you are being assaulted, and you are being confronted with challenging imagery. And Fuller is provoking you into thinking, trying to think in a different way, in a fresh way, in a new way about very fundamental themes. I should say also that in addition to Harry Rhodes and Peter Breck, we also have Gene Evans, right, who plays Dr. Bowden. So those of you who know Fuller filmography will recognize Gene Evans, and you'll recognize other faces. And of course, Constance Towers, who is Kathy here. Now, she has, I think, a very difficult role, because she has to provide the center of this film. She has to provide the calm center, the sane center, so to speak, because everything around her, or everything in this film is essentially a whirlwind of insanity. And so she has to provide the core that reminds us of Johnny's humanity. And it's her relationship, Kathy's relationship with Johnny, that forms the crux of Johnny's humanity. And once he loses that relationship, game over. Right? Game over. And you're left with basically a catatonic and someone who can't speak. So this is so filled, it is so deep, so profound, and it will leave you stunned. It left me stunned. And what's great about it too is that it's stunning, and yet it is so corny and funny and just over the top, zany at the same time. And I love this. So think about Pagliacci, the Pagliacci character, the large, overweight inmate there. And you just get a load of his singing, you know. My goodness, if I hear that again, I think I'm going to scream. And it's amazing because he does these odd, not quite monologues, but he does these odd things where he seems like a different character every time we see him. And then once in a while, he'll just express these quite profound or witty lines of dialogue. And it's amazing. Oh, yes. And you've got these fantastically bonkers set pieces in the film. You have, of course, Johnny has these traveling through different adventures in the ward, and he stumbles into the nymphomaniacs room, and they just kind of surround him. They're like animals surrounding their prey, and then suddenly they pounce, and it's like he can't escape, and it's like a scene out of Night of the Living Dead or something. And even when he's walking down the corridor and you see the inmates just still, it's very eerie. It's almost like a zombie movie. And that fight scene with Wilkes at the end, right? Wilkes. And Johnny is just, he's almost broken by now. He's got to figure out who killed Sloan. He's just fighting him, and he's got that lovely brawl at the end, and it's just, they're just destroying the place, and all the inmates are just calmly just sitting there, just not not caring about what's the chaos that's going around. And he just goes into the corridor, and he has Wilkes there, and he's just grabbing him by the ears, and he's just going like this with his head, smashing his head on the ground. He said, "So who killed Sloan? Who killed Sloan?" And just, oh gosh, that's such a great moment, and there's so much relief. Oh man, my heart just kind of like, I just went like that. My shoulders just, all this tension left my body when at last, Wilkes says, "I killed Sloan." What a great moment. One of the great moments of relief, of tension I've seen in a long time. And I just love that scene, you know, who killed Sloan. But of course, the set piece, it has to be, and before I get to that, of course, the dream sequences when Johnny is dreaming of a sexy and sultry Kathy, and you've got the superimposition of Kathy on the frame there while Johnny's asleep. You've got his face, and so you've got these really odd sort of visual depictions here, and also the lovely use of Johnny's inner monologue, and you hear his thoughts. Right? And this becomes very important too, because he doesn't act as a pure narrator in the traditional cinematic sense, but you hear his thoughts occasionally, and there comes a point, right, where he cannot speak. He cannot speak, and he's trying to speak, and you can see his face is sort of deadpan, cold, but his thoughts are so alive and desperate. And there is such a great juxtaposition between what he's thinking and what he cannot say and cannot express. I love that so much. And but of course, the highlight is the famous scene of the corridor and Johnny going, essentially, this is him breaking, and he's caught in the rainstorm in the corridor, and then goes to this surprisingly chilling color footage of the waterfall and the rush of water and the music swelling and the rain falling on his face. And what can he do? He can't do anything. He is trapped forever. And then he screams. Such a sour note. This is why I love cinema. This is why I love cinema. It's for moments like this. I love cinema. It's so madcap and it's so difficult to explain. It's hard to explain in words why that moment is so important and memorable. But you know what I mean? There's something in the gut, in your heart, that tells you, oh man, this is the perfect encapsulation of what this film is all about. Chaos, controlled chaos, and yet something that is inscrutable. That is Shock Corridor. And my goodness, this is a masterpiece. Okay, my friends, let me leave you there. I'm sorry for that commentary. I hope it wasn't too boring for you. If you have any questions or comments about this great film, please let me know. I would love to hear what you have to say about this. This is one for the ages, folks. This is one that needs to be on as many Blu-ray shelves in as many homes as possible, I think, because once you've seen it, you can never forget it. And yes, it is maddening and quite frustrating and delightful and funny and witty and many times laugh out loud, shockingly funny. And it's got so many strong messages at heart. Sam Fuller is such an intelligent filmmaker, and it shows here. My goodness, does it show in this great film. Okay, my friends, as I say, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to let me know in the comments section below. I will do my best to get back to you, and so we can have a nice discussion about this incredible film. So that's it. So next time I will talk to you about the film, which is Spine Number 20, which is this one, Sid and Nancy. I look forward to that very much. Until then, my friends, I hope you are happy and healthy and well. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And I know that all of you are busy, and I hope things are not too stressful for you, my dear friends. And if they are, I hope things they work out and they get better so that you can enjoy your life and have fun and be happy. That is the most important thing, my friends. So until we meet again, take care and cheers.